In World of Warcraft's latest expansion, Legion, we see a return of some familiar races on the Broken Isles, along with a host of new ones we're just making contact with, such is the case with the Nightfallen of Suramar. Of course, only those we've allied ourselves with are known as the Nightfallen. The race itself is actually referred to as the Shaldorai, or Nightborn. In years long past, 10,000 years ago to be precise, the Nightborn were nothing more than another powerful civilization of night elves. They grew to be strong magic users, siphoning energy from the endless font known as the Nightwell from their capital of Suramar. Now, if the Nightwell sounds familiar, then you might remember the Sunwell, as it was often referenced in the Burning Crusade expansion. The Nightwell and Sunwell share many similarities. They both provide a race of elves with unimaginable power, but eventually they began to rely too heavily on its sustenance. This negative reaction and addiction to mana turned those who fed off the Sunwell into the Blood Elves, the same fate which resulted in the Nightborn we know today. The similarities don't end there, however. Those cursed by the rays of the Sunwell are forced to feed off arcane sources, or suffer a terrible depletion in power and sanity. They wither into husks of their former selves. The Nightborn also suffer from this effect, leaving those without reliable access to mana to become zombified wretches known simply as the Withered. Yet, there are those who walk a fine line between Nightborn and Withered. These are the Nightfallen. Those who have been exiled from their beloved city of Suramar and left to degrade outside the protective essence of the Nightwell. The Nightfallen are forced to brave the wilds on the outskirts of their former city, scrounging and foraging for any form of mana which can sate their endless hunger. Those who cannot produce a sufficient supply succumb to the madness of the withered state, a form of life most fear worse than death. While the Nightfallen may take on a more disheveled look, they're still basically Nightborn, just a little more hungry. The physical differences can be reversed if granted access to the Nightwell, but the same can't be said for those who have already withered. When one becomes a withered, there's no going back. No amount of mana can restore the mind, and the individual is eternally lost. The Nightborn have had a storied history on Azeroth, although most wouldn't be aware of it. 10,000 years ago, during the first Legion invasion of Azeroth, known as the War of the Ancients, the Night Elves of Suramar did their best to fight back the forces of the Burning Legion. Their skills and magic proved useful in battle, and in many respects, they succeeded in pushing back the endless ranks of demons. But as the war came to its cataclysmic end, with the shattering of Azeroth known as the Sundering, the residents of Suramar were forced to protect their city and the Nightwell. Fearing the whole of Azeroth had been taken by the Legion in the wake of this destruction, the leader of the former Night Elves of Suramar, Grand Magistrate Elisandre, ordered a powerful barrier to be cast over the entire city using the essence of the Nightwell itself. The spell worked. All remaining Legion forces were repelled by the spell, and the citizens of Suramar finally found some measure of peace during this conflict. With their isolation, the rest of the world believed the city and its people were destroyed by Legion forces. For 10,000 years, Suramar and its Night Elf citizens lived in dark seclusion, feeding heavily from the rich mana of the Nightwell. Yet this constant feeding would eventually change the Night Elves fundamentally, creating what we know as the Nightborn. Now, with the Legion's return, the Grand Magistrate has discovered that the Nightwell itself has become corrupted. Its magic taints all those who ingest it, dooming the whole of Suramar to a withered fate. As leader of the Nightborn, Elisande had to make a difficult choice, but did so with her people in mind. She lowered the city's protective barrier and allowed the Legion forces, now led by Gul'dan, into Suramar. With Gul'dan's promise of untold arcane stores secured for her people, they would never be lost to the withered curse. But that assurance came at a price. Her people and her city were now under Legion control. The once shining jewel of defiance which stood against these monsters for so many years has now passively fallen. Though many in the Elder Circle understand and sympathize with this decision, a vast majority of Suramar's citizens are disgusted at this pact. Yet still, few ever speak freely about their displeasure, for in doing so would result in banishment, meaning no source of mana, which meant you'd surely wither. Even with such a fate a real possibility outside the protective walls of Suramar, there are some who have chosen to defy logic in order to preserve their honor. These Nightborn, who have fled Suramar in exile and formed a resistance group in order to reclaim their city, are what we refer to as the Nightfallen. Now, the heroes of Azeroth have finally, after so many forgotten years, returned to the broken lands of Suramar. With their help, the Nightfallen hope to reclaim their legion-infested city, not only to preserve their honor and existence, but to steal away Gul'dan's greatest prize, the Nightwell itself. This font of power is one that can turn the tide of battle in favor of one side or the other, a tool which mustn't be left at the Legion's disposal. And that's what we know about the Nightborn and Nightfallen of Suramar. If you're a fan of fetching these guys loads of ancient mana, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe for more great WoW videos. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time.